She will never ask you for it. Not because she does not want it, not because it does not matter to her, but because somewhere between her 20s and now, she stopped believing any man was actually capable of giving it to her. She asked for it once, maybe twice. She explained it carefully, vulnerably, in her own words, and what came back was confusion, defensiveness, or a man who nodded and then went right back to doing exactly what he had always done. So she stopped asking. She stopped explaining. She folded that need up quietly and tucked it somewhere deep inside herself where it would not embarrass her anymore. She has bought her own flowers. She has learned to sleep alone without feeling lonely. She has built a life so full and so functional that most people looking from the outside would never know there is one thing missing. One thing that no amount of success, friendship, or self-sufficiency has ever been able to replace. And the devastating part is this. The men in her life have no idea what that thing is, not because they are bad men, but because no one ever told them. That ends right now. Dr. Beanie Brown, a research professor at the University of Houston, who has spent over 2 decades studying human connection, vulnerability, and belonging, conducted one of the most important studies on what people need to feel genuinely loved. Her research, involving thousands of participants across multiple years, found that the #1 predictor of whether a person felt truly loved in a relationship was not affection. It was not attraction. It was not even loyalty. It was this. The feeling of being fully known and fully accepted at the same time. Not accepted because of what they present to the world. Accepted because someone saw all of it, the strength and the struggle, the confidence and the fear, and chose to stay anyway. That number is not a small one. In Brown's data, people who reported feeling fully seen by their partner reported 73% higher relationship satisfaction than those who did not. 73%. Most men are working harder than they have ever worked in a relationship and still missing the one variable that changes everything. And here is what nobody is willing to say out loud about why this matters so differently for a mature woman specifically. A woman in her 20s is still discovering who she is. She is still figuring out what she wants, what she needs, what she will and will not tolerate. Her walls are thinner because she has not yet been given enough reasons to build them high. But a woman in her late 30s, her 40s, her 50s, she knows exactly who she is. She has been tested. She has been disappointed. She has been the strongest person in the room when she desperately needed someone else to be strong. And the walls she has built are not a sign of damage. They are a sign of intelligence. They are the result of years of learning exactly which men were worth letting in and which ones would leave her more hollow than before. This is why the one thing she never tells you carries so much more weight than anything a younger woman might want, because she is not guessing anymore. She knows what real connection feels like. She just stopped believing she would find it. Now, before I reveal exactly what this one thing is, and more importantly, how to actually give it to her, I need to tell you 2 things. First, when I describe this, your instinct will be to say, "That sounds simple. I already do that." You do not. I promise you, you do not. Not in the way she needs it. Not in the way that actually reaches her. And second, the reason this one thing is so rarely given is not because men are unwilling. It is because no one has ever broken down the specific behaviors, the specific moments, the specific language that delivers it to a woman who has been carrying herself alone for years. That is exactly what I am going to do right now. The one thing women never tell men, but always want, is this. To feel completely and undeniably seen, not complimented, not desired, not even understood in the surface level way most people mean when they use that word. Seen. Seen in a way that says, I notice the specific way you carry things. I see the version of you that you do not show anyone else. I see what it costs you to keep going the way you do, and I'm not asking you to stop or to change or to perform differently for me. I just want you to know that I see it. That is it. That is the whole thing. And before you decide that sounds too simple to matter, I need you to stay with me, because the gap between what most men think seeing her means and what it actually means to her is so wide that it might be the most important thing you read this year. Here is what most men do. They see the version of her she shows the world. They see the competent woman, the strong woman, the woman who has it together, the woman who laughs easily and does not ask for much and seems to manage everything without breaking a sweat. They see that woman and they respond to that woman. They compliment that woman. They are attracted to that woman. They make plans with that woman. And that woman smiles and says, "Thank you." And inside, she feels more invisible than she has ever felt in her life, because the woman they are responding to is not all of her. It is the performance of her, and she has been performing for so long that the idea of someone finally seeing behind the performance feels not just rare, but almost impossible. Dr. Sue Johnson, the creator of emotionally focused therapy and one of the most respected attachment researchers alive, describes this as the difference between being noticed and being known. Being noticed is when someone responds to your surface. Being known is when someone responds to what is underneath the surface. In her clinical work spanning over 3 decades with thousands of couples, Dr. Johnson found that the moments of deepest emotional intimacy were almost never the grand romantic gestures. They were the small, quiet moments where one partner demonstrated that they had been paying attention to something the other person had never explicitly pointed out. The moments where someone said, "In essence, I see the part of you that you thought was invisible." And for a mature woman who has spent years carefully managing what she shows and what she hides, that moment is not just meaningful, it is transformational. That is the power of being truly seen. And most men walk right past it every single day. Now, let me get specific, because saying see her more deeply is not actionable. What I am giving you right now are the exact behaviors, the exact moments, the exact ways of being present that deliver this feeling to a woman who has stopped expecting it. The first way is what I call the quiet observation acknowledgement. This is when you notice something about her that she never told you to notice, and you name it gently without drama, without making it a big moment. Not "you look beautiful tonight." That is a compliment aimed at the surface. What I mean is something like noticing that she gets slightly quieter when she is overwhelmed and saying to her, "You seem like you are carrying something heavy today," not asking her to unload it. Not problem-solving, not offering advice, just naming what you observed. Just letting her know that you were paying attention to the real version of her, not just the polished one she shows the room. The reason this works is neurological. The anterior cingulate cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for emotional processing and social awareness, responds with a measurable spike in activation when a person feels genuinely recognized by someone they care about. Researchers at UCLA's Social Cognitive Neuroscience Lab have documented that the brain's response to feeling truly seen by a trusted person is neurologically similar to the response triggered by physical safety. Her brain does not just feel warmly toward you. Her brain registers you as safe. And for a woman who has spent years protecting herself from people who were not safe, that registration changes everything. That is not a metaphor. That is biology. Here is where most men get this wrong. They wait for her to tell them what she is feeling before they respond to it. They operate on the assumption that if something is wrong, she will say so. And mature women who have learned to handle their own emotional weight without burdening anyone else almost never say so. They fold it inward. They manage it quietly. They present fine because they have gotten very good at presenting fine. When you wait to be told, you are essentially asking her to do all the emotional labor of not only feeling the feeling, but also naming it, communicating it, and making it legible for you. And she has been doing all of that emotional labor alone for so long that when a man makes her do it again, even a good man, even a well-meaning man, something in her closes, not with anger, with exhaustion. But when you observe first, when you name what you see before, she has to explain it. When you say, "I noticed and you are right and I am paying attention," you are handing her something she has not had in years. You are handing her the experience of being known without having to ask to be known. I once read a comment from a woman in her early 50s who wrote, and I am paraphrasing closely, "The man I fell in love with never once asked me how I was feeling. He just always seemed to know. And the first time he said, 'You seem tired,' in a way that goes deeper than sleep, and he just held me. I did not just cry. I felt something unlock in my chest that I had forgotten was even there." That is the quiet observation acknowledgement done at its highest level. And for a woman who has been strong for so long that she sometimes forgets she is allowed to be human, that moment is not a small thing. It is the entire thing. The second way to give her this feeling is what I call the specific memory return. And this is something so rare that when a mature woman experiences it, she does not just feel seen, she feels chosen. What this means is returning unprompted to something she said in a previous conversation, not summarizing it, not paraphrasing it generally, returning to the specific detail she mentioned, the name of the colleague who frustrated her 2 weeks ago, the thing she said she wished she had done differently in her last relationship, the small dream she mentioned almost in passing because she did not expect anyone to take it seriously.